What up, world? Welcome to another edition Going the Distance Live. Got a bunch of stuff going on in the next month. May is going to be very, very busy. So I'm going to just go ahead and knock stuff out of the way right off the bat to try to get things cracking. Tell you where I'd be at, what I'm gonna do, and let's just go ahead and knock those out. So this Saturday, I will be in Kings Mountain State Park. What up, Doug? Outside of the Kings Mountain area, National State Park is kind of outside of the greater Charlotte area, kind of straddles, not hurdles, North South Carolina. They are hosting a marathon down there. I will be hanging out at the finish. I will not be running the marathon, but I'll be hanging out at the finish, encouraging people, giving them a pat on the back when they finish, and also have some books on hand. And I do believe, too, we've worked it out where some lucky people might win a copies through some raffles. So if you're running the Kings Mountain Marathon on Saturday, good luck. Where else? Okay, so next week, actually right about this time next week, I will be at the Lakes Running Company in Minneapolis, Minnesota, doing an event where I'm going to read a small section of the Going the Distance of my book, Going the Distance. Haven't yet determined what section I'm going to read. So if anybody's got any suggestions, I'm certainly open to them. So please let me know what maybe your favorite parts were, or a short part that I could read and talk about. It's obviously hard for me to narrow it down because I think all the words in there are important. So I'm not going to just read the whole thing because that'd be kind of boring. So if anybody's got any suggestions, just please let me know. That'd be great. Doug, yes, we do need to catch up. At the following night, so Thursday, a week from now, I will be opening up my spring racing or outdoor racing season in Minneapolis at the Twin Cities 1 Mile Road Championships. That'll be about 8 p.m. If there is going to be live stream information, I'll kick that out to everybody and let them know. I'm getting really excited to race. As we've talked about kind of before, indoors was kind of rough, so I don't really know. I didn't really know what was going to happen. Didn't know how my body was going to respond, but something's definitely been clicking the last few weeks, and I'm finding my bit of my old self, and it's been exciting. So next week could still go bad, but we're going to get out there and we're going to go for it. So I was fifth at this race 2 years ago, so that should be a good barometer on what's going on. And yes, Mary Frances, I actually got invited to that Rocket Mile. The people that put it on also put on another race that I run a lot in Raleigh called the Sir Walter Miler. But yeah, with all the traveling events and stuff and the big race next weekend, I just couldn't work it out this year, but I'm definitely going to probably save it on my calendar for next year. But for those that are in the Raleigh area or the North Carolina area, I will be racing in Raleigh this summer in August at the Sir Walter Miler, which I believe is August 3rd. I don't have that date right in front of me, so I wouldn't trust my memory. Google will probably be a little bit more reliable. So next week I open up my outdoor season, the Twin Cities Road Mile, and then the following weekend I'll be back down in Charlotte for the Let Me Run 5K. The Let Me Run program is similar to the Girls on the Run program, but it's for boys in the greater Charlotte area. They have Culmination 5K. The kids have all been meeting throughout the school year in the spring, and it's kind of their big culmination event. Will be the grand marshal at that event, and I'll also have a table with books and wonderful vasculitis awareness information and everything to pass out. And then the following day, I'll be back home at the Brown Truck 5K here in High Point, North Carolina. We'll be giving a short little chat to all the runners before they take off on their 5-kilometer journey through High Point, North Carolina. That is on May 20th, which is a Sunday. Brown Truck Brewery is a local brewery here in town. So I'll be there on the 20th, and then the week after that, I'll be in Chattanooga, Tennessee, home of Cameron Cron City, Magnum, Bean, at the Chattanooga Chase 1 mile to help out that race series, and just go to Chattanooga, see my friends, see the people that I love and care about, see the Beans, see Mr. Outlaw that runs the running store there. So I'll be in Chattanooga, Tennessee. We're working on maybe getting a book event also set up there at the running store. So I'll keep everybody in the loop of that. And then finally, June 2nd, I'll be at the Music City Distance Carnival in Nashville, Tennessee. So if anybody's in the Nashville area, I will be lining up for my first track race since first 1500 since the Olympic trials, actually. So what up, Rubus? I think that's it for the events. I'll recap that. I'll throw up links to everything here at the end. If anybody's interested, I will be out in a boot near you in the coming future. So come say hello. Briefly wanted to recap the Vino for Vasculitis event, which was this past Saturday night in Raleigh. It was a very, very special night. And special doesn't even really describe it. I've obviously been to a lot of auctions, a lot of events over the years, a lot of vasculitis events, but I've never quite been to something like this. And I didn't know what it was going to mean to me when I got involved with this, because I'd never been to an event like this for vasculitis patients. And I've been to a lot of other auctions in my time. And it's been humbling to be involved with that group of young ladies that put that on for their friend, because our community just doesn't have things like that. And I didn't I realized upon reflection about it, I was like, oh, why didn't you think about this, Brandon? This should have just kind of been a no-brainer. Of course there hasn't been, you haven't been to an event like this. So you should have been aware of this, but I really wasn't until I was there. And so many other diseases, so many other causes, get events like this and get the funding and get the attention that grabs the attention of the public. And to have people give our disease, or I'll say our disease, that attention was really, really humbling. And it floored me. And I had all this stuff planned to talk about or to share, and I really didn't get through any of it because it got really emotional for me, because you're also at the same time unfortunately confronted with a situation where a young person lost the battle with the same disease that you have. And it puts a lot of things in perspective that, we're always confronted with it. And, I've certainly been confronted with it numerous times, but when you're there and you see their family and you're seeing the pictures and the slideshows and, kind of an outsider, honestly. And when I say outsider, I don't mean I felt like an outsider there. We obviously, everybody there was wonderful, but you feel like an outsider in the sense that, a lot of the people all there knew Danielle, who the event was put on for. So I had never met Danielle. She passed away, I believe, 9 years ago. And, she had a really short fight with it and never got hers under control. She was diagnosed, I believe they said in May or June. And, July of that same year, she was gone. So, it puts things into perspective and scares you all over again. So there was a lot of emotions from that night. And to see people step up and, raise a lot of money for the foundation on that night. I haven't seen the total dollar number yet, but I'll certainly be sharing that with y'all as soon as I see it, or they let us know. But it meant way more to me than I ever could have possibly imagined beforehand. And not that I thought it was not going to mean something, but every time I've gone to a vasculitis event, it's always with other patients. I think, and Mary Frances might can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was only 4 patients there, maybe, that I was aware of. At the most, I would say 5. So the other 50 or 60 people that were there were all, just people that either cared about Danielle or cared about the cause. So to feel that sort of love and attention for our disease felt really good and made me really proud to be a part of the event. And I'm certainly going to continue to try to be a part of that event as long as they're going to have it and as long as I can continue to make it. So thank you to everybody that was involved with that event again. Yeah, I'm going to have to stop talking about it. But anyways, that'll kind of lead me into a little bit of the things I guess I wanted to share about, Vasculitis Awareness Month and what I want people to know, because Awareness Month and kind of what my role is as an ambassador for the foundation. I had a conversation with somebody actually at the Vino event. I think they thought that I was just like a fundraiser guy that the foundation touted around to stir people up to give more money. But no, I do my outreach work, not because I'm an employee of the foundation, but because I'm an ambassador for their cause, because I am a vasculitis patient. And there we go. Mary Frances corrected me. There were 6 of us. So my role as an ambassador is to kind of let people into the lives of, or allow people a window into the lives of a patient, to explain to the disease, explain what we go through, explain what our loved ones go through. And with that said, there's a lot of things that, the reason I started as an ambassador and doing this work is because I was tired of kind of the misconceptions around the disease, tired of constantly having to explain what it was, which is kind of ironic because that's literally what I do every day now. I really am like kind of waiting for the time when everybody's got like computer chips in their brain and you tell somebody you've got vasculitis and they just like, okay, I know what that is. I understand what that is now. So until that point happens and everybody has computer chips in their brain, we're going to have to be advocates for ourselves and explain our disease and explain what it's like, because there's a lot of situations that you run into as a patient where people just don't understand the severity of it. They don't understand what you're going through. They don't understand what not just you're going through, but your family and your loved ones are going through, because I think oftentimes that's the really, truly hard part, especially as you get older, seeing the strain that your disease and your circumstances. Sorry, I ate too much spaghetti tonight. It's probably not a good idea before a podcast. But no, just to see the kind of the strain that it puts on people that you care about is really tough. And that was a conversation actually I had with a few people at the Vino event and Danielle's parents. And, you see the strain that, my parents have come under because of it. And, my girlfriend and my friends and my brother and my sister. And, that's something when you're younger, you don't really realize. But it's really tough for a lot of them. Because we as patients develop coping mechanisms. And I don't mean that in like necessarily like a bad way, but we've figured out how to handle our situation and ride kind of the ups and downs and deal with them that way. And in a lot of senses, it's emotionally more draining for the people around you, because we've kind of figured out how to handle it, and how to get through it. Even if we're not okay or don't think we're going to be okay, we've figured out a way to handle it ourselves. So that's why I say that a lot of times it's tougher for the caregivers and the people around them than it is really for the patients, because they don't have a lot of control. Even though your disease is kind of out of control and you feel like you might be out of control, caregivers and loved ones really do feel like they have no control over the situation, and there's nothing they really can do to help. And that's, I think, is the hard part. And one of the things I think that often gets overlooked when it's talked about, because obviously everybody wants to talk about, okay, so vasculitis is what it is. It's inflammation of the small blood vessels in the body. It's caused by your B cells, which are part of your white cells. Those cause inflammation in areas and wreak havoc on your body. And, yada, yada, yada. These are what our treatments are like. This is how bad it is. This is what our bad days are like. This is how we feel on prednisone and all that stuff. So, that information I think gets out there a lot. But yeah, and Mayor Francis, I do think, I hope it is, good for people to see that there's other patients surviving and doing okay. But that's also that is the really, really scary thing is being confronted with somebody that lost that battle. Because that could be any of us. And that's, I know for a lot of us, it's changed how we live, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. It's really one of the reasons why I continue to run and continue to do what I want to do. Because, I don't know if one of these bouts that I have with mine, if it's going to take it all away. So, while I have good health and youngish legs, I'm going to continue to fight for my dream, because I don't know what other dreams I might be able to accomplish in this lifetime, because you don't know if one of those crazy times you're gonna lose it. I mean, a year ago, this month, I was on the verge of losing my kidneys again. So you just don't know when one of those ones is going to be the one that gets you. Now obviously the survival rate is a lot better off than it was 30 years ago. But that's the uncertainty that all patients are faced with, is vasculitis patients. But yeah, that's kind of the thing I wanted to talk about tonight around it is not so much the information about it, because that's going to get out there. They are chicken legs, Doug. They are chicken legs, but there's some strong chicken legs, and they can move. They can get moving, as some people found out today the hard way. They still got a little goodie left in them that I'm excited about. But done lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah. So over the next month, May is Vasculitis Awareness Month. So you will see myself, the Vasculitis Foundation, and a lot of other vasculitis patients sharing a lot of information. So everybody that's been a part of this story and tunes into these things or hears this down the road, and if you see the things that we're sharing, what would help our cause is if you shared that as well. The more people that hear about our disease, the better and easier patients' lives are going to be, because all patients get tired of having this conversation with people that don't understand what the disease is or what it's about, or think because it's not cancer or something else that it's not overly serious. And that's why I've really gone to the point of being like, well, it's potentially fatal, it's systematic, and it's incurable. And until those three things change about our disease, it's going to be very, very serious. Basically, until science catches up and finds a complete cure for that, then we are going to, that's the life that we're stuck with. So the more information that can get out there to, to help other patients not have to deal with the same, I'll call them stupid questions. There are such things as stupid questions, and naive questions, because, and sometimes it's, and, I'm not blaming people. Sometimes it's just their nativity, and they don't understand that somebody may really, really be suffering from something, and they think that because somebody looks okay or looks fine, that they are indeed fine. Actually, I was thinking about this earlier. It's like I actually have this barometer. If when people want to know, especially when I'm sick, they ask, "Oh, how are you doing?" And I'm just kind of like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm okay." If I'm pretty much saying I'm okay, then that's probably a barometer that I'm not doing okay, really, because I'm normally pretty good. If people ask me, "Oh, how's it going?" I'm pretty good. I find something to complain about, I'm sure, but I won't. I can always complain about something. But if I'm just like, "Oh, I'm okay," I'm doing fine. Like that's normally for most of us patients, that's actually probably a pretty good sign that things aren't well, and that I'm not saying that you should worry, but that's kind of where we're at. That you should be probably a little more cautious around this. If I'm saying like, "Oh, I'm surviving," that means I'm literally just trying to survive. So beware of that when you're around patients. If they're not saying they're doing great or doing good, then maybe check in with them. It's our normal is so screwed up as vasculitis patients because we are kind of used to suffering through treatment, suffering through our symptoms and dealing with them, that our okay is normally kind of bad. So beware of that. That's the one thing I'll kind of say this week, to talk about to help with awareness. That's what I'll say, to help with awareness, is just to if we're saying we're doing okay, we're probably not. So keep that in mind. And don't, and I guess the only other thing I say is don't assume when anybody tells you anything about something that they have going on in their life that it's not super serious. Whether that's something like anxiety, depression, for eating disorders, death in a family, relationship struggles, whatever it is. We all could be better people if we were a little more attentive to those things and took them more serious, because those are things that are really painful in people's lives. And not to drove up the whole conversation that we've had on here a bunch, but if you just listened a little more and took people, is what they're saying is their pain being very, very real to them. I think it will go a long way for a lot of people. So that's my spiel for sort of vasculitis awareness for tonight. Over the rest of the month for all of these, I'll be sharing some things that I think that aren't necessarily being addressed with all the stuff that we're sharing on social media and the stuff that we're talking about. So please do ask that if there is any information that you see that you learned, that you can share it on your social media, because the more people that know about our disease, literally the easier it is for patients, and for the foundation to raise money, because our foundation is very important, because our disease does not get a lot of attention. It does not get a lot of research dollars. We have to piggyback off of a lot of other diseases at times. So that's why that Vino for Vasculitis event was so important to me, and why I continue on to be involved with it, is because that's something that's raising direct funds for our cause. And the foundation does a great job of continuing education for doctors, because so many people don't get diagnosed on time. And that's the really, really tough part of our disease, is oftentimes people and patients struggle for 6 or 8 or 10 months or a year or 2 years before they're diagnosed. And a lot of times it's because doctors don't know. Doctors don't ever see cases of it. Doctors might have read about it one time in medical school 40 years ago. So they don't recognize the symptoms. And even in 2018, there's still a lot of doctors that aren't plugged into the right systems and don't know how to address those issues properly. So I really enjoy the foundation and what they do to get the material out there to the doctors. And I think it's, wildly important. Like, it's just way too important for us to not, support. So Doug, y'all raised $4,000 last week. That's absolutely incredible. That is definitely a nice way to kick off Awareness Week. And those are the type of things that our foundation needs, and people like Doug and people like Jess and all of her friends that put on the Vino for Vasculitis event, and hopefully me one day. I gotta figure out something. So instead of just yapping all the time, which yapping seems to be my strong suit. So I think that's kind of it right now for the vasculitis stuff, because there is another topic I kind of want to get to. It just came out a few hours ago. This news is a few hours old. But the big news in track and field right now is the Olympic champion in my event from 2008. Yeah, I think he won the gold medal in 2008. He's won numerous world titles, run the fastest time in the world several times. And I've been in the Olympic final in 2008, 2012, 2016. He got popped and failed a drug test recently out of competition. He hails from the land of Kenya and has been associated with an agent that has had numerous athletes, should I dare say countless athletes, because I've lost track of all the athletes that he's had, test positive for EPO. And it seems to have caught a lot of people off guard. For those of us that are unfortunately a little too jaded about our sport, it's hard to believe anybody at the top when you see the number of people that continually get popped. So I don't want to say I'm shocked. I'm not surprised. It did not catch me off guard. When I saw it, I was just kind of like, yep, that makes sense. Glad they got him. But it brings up a big problem in our sport, because continually high profile athletes, especially coming from areas of areas of the world where there is a not great out of competition testing, which is being stepped up right now, which is probably one of the reasons why he got popped, is because for years the out of competition testing in remote areas of the world like Kenya, Ethiopia, Morocco, it's just, they're not easy to get to. So the World Anti-Doping Association and the IAAF, which is our governing body for track and field, and the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, all of those companies don't have quite the funding to continually test people in very rural areas when they might be a plane ride, a bus ride, and a 2-day ride down a dirt road to get to an athlete. So for years, these athletes have just been able to pass the idiot test, which is, and some of them have failed those even, which is don't get popped at a competition, which to fail a drug test at a competition, you kind of just have to be basically an idiot. They call them idiot tests for a reason, and doctors and stuff call those idiot tests. There's been, a big push in the last, 8 or 10 years for what they've called the biological passport, which is supposed to help show like fluctuating levels of athletes over time as they get tested and tested more often, what their normal values should be, and hopefully help catch people when certain things don't look right. But honestly, when you've got a guy like Kiprup that's been able to race like an idiot, if anybody's ever watched any of his races, he often races like a JV high school kid that happens to be the kid that has the best tools physically in the world. So he's been able to get away with a lot. But when you look at it from the sense that, he was probably running with blood booster. So what EPO is for those that don't know, EPO is a hormone that stimulates red blood cell growth in the body. So when you are in a event that is primarily aerobic, whether that be the mile, 5K, the 10K, the marathon, cycling, or swimming, any endurance-based event where oxygen carrying capacity is generally the limiting factor in how fast you can go. It is the designer drug of choice for many athletes. The two ways to increase your red blood cell count artificially would be through EPO or blood doping, which blood doping is taking your blood out and then right before the competition, putting some little, as your body's had time to replenish the stores, and you put it back in, then all of a sudden you got extra blood, hence extra red blood cells, hence the ability to go faster without doing as much damage to your body. So to find out that yet again, another Kenyan associated with this same agent who is yet to be banned from track and field for some unknown reason. We have several of those coaches that the IAAF and IOC have just continued to let continue to operate in our sport, and it's really, really frustrating. And it's even frustrating to see other athletes, especially the reigning Olympic champion in this event, speak out against the news today, kind of. But his coach is under scrutiny and under investigation by the U.S. Anti-Doping Association as well. So I wouldn't necessarily say that he has a clean slate himself when his group has been under investigation for, I believe, 2.5 years now. And I blame our sport. It's the incentives, they've only recently kind of gotten a little worse. So it's like a 4-year ban. So especially at Kiprup's age now, with him being older, that more than likely mean he's done. But you look at a case like somebody like Justin Gatlin, who won the World Championships last year in the 100 after serving a 4-year suspension for drugs on his second offense, came back at like 35 years old and apparently is running faster now than he was when he was on steroids in his mid-30s. That passes the smell test too. So I blame our sport. There's not enough incentives for people to not do it. When you look at like all the money that Kiprup has made as the Olympic champion, he's made in sponsorship dollars and appearance fees and prize money, and what he's taken away from the clean athletes underneath him. You're looking at millions of dollars over the last 12 years or the last 10 years. And he's affected other people from making millions of dollars when you look down the line. And there's really not an incentive. So he didn't fail one at a competition. So more than likely, this was an out of competition test. So he'll serve a ban, but he's not going to lose any of his, since they didn't actually catch him in an event, they're more than likely it's not going to cause him to lose any of his medals. It's not going to, it's basically not going to do anything. It's not going to hurt his pocket. He's not going to have to pay a fine. He'll just go about the way that he's lived for the last, 10 years as one of the best athletes in the world. And that's the thing when you've got a lot of third world countries whose athletes can go and make, whether they come to the United States and run a bunch of road races and make $20,000 or $30,000, $40,000, and then go back home and live for years and buy a bunch of land and start a farm. Those are things that a lot of athletes do. And to them, they don't look at it as so much as cheating as they do as just a means to an end and a ways to an end. And the risk doesn't outweigh the reward. So they continue to do it. And we're going to continue to have a problem in track and field until somebody does something about it. I don't think the media does a good enough job of scrutinizing these coaches and these agents and the events that allow these athletes to continue to compete. The fact that we even have groups here in the United States that are continually that have been under investigation from the U.S. Anti-Doping Association for 2.5 years now, and they allow their athletes to still compete like it's not happening. I blame the media that covers track and field a lot. I blame fellow competitors for not speaking up more about it and making those athletes' lives more difficult. And there's not enough push for change. It's become the very sad status quo in our sport. And when I saw that happen, the news came out about 3:00 today. An article had been written about a day ago that a high-profile athlete had failed out a competition test, and then the name dropped today. So it's not shocking. I was just like, okay. I mean, it would be in our sport, it would be the equivalent to literally like somebody like LeBron James failing a drug test. Like I said, until our sport really gets its act together and decides to do something about it, it's going to continue to hurt clean athletes' ability to make money. Because when you're doing everything right, and as a clean athlete, you can't really beat, it's nearly impossible to, unless that person just really does something stupid, like Kiprop actually was prone to do. It's hard to beat somebody that, EPO can boost your performance by as much as 10 or 15%, which in an event like the mile, you're looking at seconds. In the longer events, you're talking about minutes. So it's a big deal in a sport that's decided oftentimes by fractions of seconds. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating that this continues to happen, and there's just not going to be much change. And you see bits and pieces of it. There's been a grassroots movement among many of the road races or track races here, smaller track meets in America, to ban anybody that's failed a drug test from competing at their event. And a lot of times when you sign contracts now, that it's like if you fail anything in the future, you could be on the hook for having to pay back that prize money. But once again, that's only a small handful of events here in the United States. You're not talking about where a lot of the big money races are in Europe. You're not talking about a lot of the big major marathons, or you're not talking about stuff on the, like Kiprop regularly runs on what's called the Diamond League circuit, which is the international track and field circuit, where a lot of our major money and sponsorship dollars go to when you compete well on that circuit. So, and the time bonuses that these guys are getting, at the times that, for instance, Kiprop's run 3:26 for 1500, which is that's 18 seconds faster than I've run. No, 12 seconds faster than I've run, not 18. I'm sorry. I can't do math right now. 12 seconds faster than I've run. And I said years ago, looking down the list of people that have run under 3:28 and see the athletes the athletes, just the sheer athletic prowess of some of these athletes that have not broken 3:28 and 3:29, and even some of them 3:30 at 1500 meters. I think that kind of seems to be where the line is of acceptable performance without performance enhancing drugs. A lot of the people that ran under that 3:28 or 3:29 mark have been people that have been either associated with coaches that were knowingly dirty, or came through during an era where there wasn't a test for EPO, but the drug had been on the market since the late 80s, and there wasn't a test for it until 2004. So there was a long gap there of about 14 or 15 years where world records in the distance events have kind of been put out of reach, except for maybe the marathon. But even then, it's like I said earlier, it's very easy to go hole up on the side of a mountain somewhere in a third world country and not get tested when you're out of competition and show up ready to go on race day after you've done all that training and your body's found a new level of performance that it can achieve. And, it just hurts our sport, because these are the type headlines that our sport makes. It's this type of stuff that makes it's ESPN. The one time an American female wins Boston, it should be huge news that we were all talking about for literally the last 2 weeks, and then sure enough, 2 weeks later, something like this happens, and Desi's victory in Boston almost becomes an afterthought to this. And this is what ESPN is going to write about. This is what Sports Illustrated is going to write about. They're going to cover the negative side of these things. And, I don't blame them for doing that. It's a big deal. When an Olympic champion tests positive for drugs. So I'm frustrated, obviously, especially somebody that has jokingly said, and not jokingly, but like as somebody who has had their red blood cells destroyed routinely over the last over the last year and a half because of the medication that I'm on to prevent myself from dying. I didn't even have a doctor that would prescribe me EPO or iron, not because my hematocrit, I was super anemic. I couldn't find a doctor here to even prescribe that stuff. Not that I was trying to get some iron because I was severely anemic. But yeah, like the EPO stuff, it's just the only people that really, really need it are people that are super, super anemic because of something like chemotherapy. So our system here in the States, as far as healthcare providers go, that's just not a drug that you're going to walk in and accidentally get off the shelf. So this is definitely not a mistake of mistaken substance. It's something that has to, here in the United States, has to be prescribed. Now, I know different countries have different laws about that. I know there's a lot of other countries you can just, I believe, something like that. You might can just ask for it behind the counter, I guess. I don't know. That's what I've read. It's a lot easier because there's not as many regulations and stuff. So, that's why these places are hotbeds for that stuff. So that stuff changes, it's going to continue to affect all of those, all of us that do things the right way. Because when people can, when people like myself and a lot of the other athletes that have run right around the Olympic A standard in the event, which is 3:36, there's a lot of us that struggle to make ends meet. And you've got guys out there running 10 seconds faster than us that are hopped up on drugs and taking our opportunities away to compete, taking our opportunities to make money, taking opportunities to have the limelight and garner those sponsorship dollars. So I'm frustrated. I'm not mad at Kip Rupp individually. I'm mad at our sport. I'm mad at our systems, and I really want something to change to where you feel like what you're watching is real again. So that's all I've got to say about that. If anybody's got any questions about any of the stuff that's going on with it, I'm more than happy to discuss it. It will be talked about a lot. You will probably see me yelling on social media, probably on Twitter a lot, probably not so much here on Facebook. I try to keep things fairly positive here on the Book of Faces, positive and uplifting. So, but if anybody wants to chat about it or has any insight or any thoughts or anything they want to say, I'm more than happy to chat. So, shoot me a DM, slide into my inbox. But that's about all I got for you guys this week. Sorry to kind of end it on a down note, but as an athlete that has struggled his entire way through this sport, it gets frustrating. So once again, if you weren't on here earlier, I'll blitz through kind of where I'm going to be again over the next month. Got a busy month. This Saturday, I'm going to be in Kings Mountain at the Kings Mountain Marathon. Next Wednesday night, I will be at the Lakes Running Company in Minneapolis, Minnesota, doing a book event there. I'm going to read a section from the book and do a Q&A and sign books, eat snacks, etc. The following day, I'll be lining up for my outdoor debut for 2018. I'll be at the Twin Cities Road Mile in Minneapolis. I believe that race goes off at about 8 p.m. If there's going to be live stream information, I'll toss that up to everybody. May 19th on Saturday, I'll be at the Let Me Run 5K in Charlotte, North Carolina. I will be the grand marshal of that event. And on May 20th, which is a Sunday, I'll be back here in High Point, North Carolina at the Brown Truck Brewery 5K. I will give a little motivational talk before everybody goes on their 5-kilometer journey. Then May 28th, I will be in Chattanooga, Tennessee, running the Chattanooga Chase Road Mile. We're trying to set up a book event there with Fast Break Athletics. As soon as I get information on that, I will let you know. And then on June 2nd, I will be making my debut on the track at the Music City Distance Carnival in Nashville, Tennessee. And that will be the first 1,500 that I have run since the Olympic trials in 2016. So I'm really excited about that. Training's going really well. So really well. So we'll see what we can lay down here in a month. Zach, Zach Stone is popped on here, guys. Zach ran the Eugene Marathon in 3 hours and 17 minutes on Sunday. Zach did a big fundraiser for the Vasculitis Foundation to help raise awareness. That was before Awareness Month, but Zach has joined our cause and raised a little over $300. The goal was $300, and we exceeded that. So that is a huge victory for us. So there's a lot of good things going on in the vasculitis community right now, and I can't thank everybody enough that has joined the cause, that's taken time out to listen, to take time out to participate in some of these discussions or share this stuff. And as I said earlier, guys, if anybody sees like myself or any other vasculitis patients in the month of May sharing information about our disease, please share that. The more people that hear about our disease, the easier it's going to be for patients. And the more people that know, the more people that will be understanding to our cause. And just maybe we can sneak a few dollars away from those other jumbo foundations and diseases that hog all the research dollars. So anyways, that's all I got for everybody this week. Next week, I will let everybody know what's going to happen. I'm going to potentially try to live stream the event again. It is the event at the running store will be during the normal going the distance time. So I think I'm going to try to live stream that. I don't know what the Wi-Fi situation will be or what the technology situation will be, but I'm going to try to work it out to where we can get some of that to you guys for your consumption. So things will obviously get tricky here during my racing season. So we'll probably be doing some of these on the road, which will be exciting, and we can maybe have some more people on here. Zach, got to buy a racing singlet for you for the next one. The idea of the cotton shirt from the site sounded like yeah, that probably would be a terrible nipple shape. I'll help you with that, Zach. We'll figure something out to get on you to do that, because that would be amazing. We will get you in a vasculitis, and a good old vasculitis singlet. So thanks again, everybody, for participating, talking, chiming in this week. As I leave every week, and hopefully we're going to say it's Vasculitis Center this month. So I hope everybody goes out into the world and learns something that might just change their mind. I hope you go out and learn something about vasculitis this month, because it is Vasculitis Awareness Month. So thanks, guys. We will see you next week.